Hello and welcome to Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio. This is Stefan, your host, British by birth, American by choice. The Founding Fathers crafted some remarkable documents that led to the creation of a great country founded on liberty and self-reliance. I have lived in the Euro-socialist nightmare, and I'm doing what I can to return this country to the vision that the Founding Fathers gave us. We need to strive to rebuild that shining city on the hill, for without us, the world has nowhere to turn for freedom. For the next hour, I will be presenting news, views, and guests that help keep the true spirit of America alive. And good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever, whenever you're listening to the show. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, British by birth, American by choice, welcoming you to episode 280 of Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio. Got a lot to talk about tonight. Most, but not all, of what we're going to talk about, obviously, is immigration. And, of course, Trump's immigration plan. And emails. And, of course, we know that relates to our friend Hilliar Clinton. And I have to say, last week I said my last show from Southwest Florida. Well, guess what, folks? I'm back in Southwest Florida. So to all my friends in the Fort Myers, Naples area, welcome to the show. And by the way, if you need a speaker for one of your events, a conservative constitutionalist, drop me an email. Love to come. I'm going to be here another couple of weeks. Who knows, it might even be longer than that, but right now I'm not expecting that. But a couple of weeks, so drop me a line. Anyway, let's get on with the show. And I said I was going to talk about immigration, but first of all we have to say the person that published the immigration paper had a few rough days over the last couple of weeks in terms of what people were saying about him, and yet he manages to remain in the lead. He's at about 25% of registered Republican voters, with 12 to 13% being the nearest challenger, most of the time Jeb Bush. It doesn't matter whether it's a state poll, so looking at a place like Iowa, New Hampshire, where they're doing polling, or a national poll, when some of the bigger polling companies look across the country. The Donald just seems to sit there and keep climbing. If anything, he's not losing. He doesn't drop. And we look at others like Carly Fiorina, for example, who had a bit of a bump after her performance in the kids' table debate, but now she's dropping back again a little bit. It was just a temporary bump, but the Donald had a slight dip, but then he just climbed right back up there. So, folks, this is going to be an interesting primary season, that's for certain. And so let's talk about Donald's immigration paper. I'm not going to go into the details. You can go out to his website and read the details. But there's a couple of key items came out of that. First of all, in an interview on one of the Sunday shows, he said that it would be impossible to deport. He said that it would be necessary to deport all 11 million illegals. And the interviewer was sort of almost speechless. And the political establishment immediately crashed into gear and said, whining about how it would be impossible to deport 11 million people, at, even at 250,000 a week, which is about the largest number they can do. They do it according to the Supreme Court ruling that they have to go through the courts, and they have a right of appeal, and we've got to pay for all those lawyers and everything. I don't think Donald would do that. He'd look for a way around that. And I think there is one way to do that, of course. Also, in his paper, and I'm going to handle this topic first, he said that it would be impossible to stop anchor babies. He said he wanted to stop anchor babies. And again, the political establishment is saying, you can't do that because of the 14th Amendment. Well, and Donald Trump was interviewed tonight on O'Reilly, and he said, no, my lawyers are telling me, and we may even be subsidizing a court case shortly to show that it is indeed that anchor babies are not legal and are not constitutional. Now, the political establishment is whining about this, and they will tell you that the relevant part of the 14th Amendment, which has a number of sections, but the first section starts off, all persons born or naturalized in the United States are citizens of the United States. That's what the political establishment whiners, the rhinos, the regressives, will tell you is in the amendment. But that's not correct, folks. Do you know what's missing in what I just said? This part of the 14th Amendment actually reads, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. Notice the difference there. Subject to the jurisdiction thereof. So we don't need a constitutional amendment, because that's what all the whiners are saying that we have to. Yeah, and it'll take 100 years to get a constitutional amendment. We don't need that. Now, I would argue with you that we probably need a constitutional amendment for other reasons and for other topics, but on the subject here of immigration, no, we don't need one. All we need is that Congress can go out and write a law that actually defines the subject to the jurisdiction thereof, and actually defines that, because the Supreme Court a number of years ago took it upon themselves to interpret that, and in the typical judicial activism of the Supreme Court, whether it was 100 years ago, whether it's today, they think that they can make the laws. No, they're supposed to interpret them, and they interpreted this one incorrectly. So it's up to Congress to say, no, here is what that definition means. They can do a law on that. They don't need to have a constitutional amendment, and all they have to say is subject to jurisdiction thereof means people who are legally in the US. That can be citizens, permanent residents, in other words, people who have a green card, and by the way, it's actually pink. Those are the ones that they could say it covers. You could define it, if you wanted to stretch it, to include those on valid work permits, because they're here for, let's say, a business reason of sorts. I think, though, you could also argue that it would not cover those who are here on a tourist visa, because they're not really subject to the jurisdiction of the United States if they're tourists. So that's all they have to do. No constitutional amendment. They can do it. All it requires is Congress to do its work. And obviously, Donald Trump is intending, if he gets elected, to lean on Congress and get them to do it. Now, be nice to see if the GOP has any spine for that, but if they had a president leaning on them, I wouldn't be at all surprised. Especially somebody like Donald Trump, who might tell them, you're fired if they don't do what he wants. So, folks, it's quite simple. I don't see what the issues are about. Now, as to the deportation, I think, to a certain extent, the political elites are right. You can't just deport 11 million, round them up, put them on buses and send them across the border. And as on the Sunday show when Trump was interviewed, he was saying, the interviewer said, "Oh, but you're going to split up families." And Donald said, "No. We'll just put the whole family on the bus and send them back." And then the interviewer said, "Well, even if they have American children," and that's where this thing about the birthright came in. But it's very simple. We don't need to put them on buses. We don't need to put them on trains. We don't need to put them on planes. All we need to do is apply the law and maybe add one law. And that one law would be make E-Verify mandatory for every single company. In other words, they have to verify that a person is here legally or they're not allowed to employ them. Guess what, folks? The stream across the border would go in the other direction at the drop of a hat. Oh, and by the way, a good important part of Donald Trump's immigration paper is building the wall. Don't build it too quickly, Donald, because just let those people self-deport. And then I know Romney got a lot of flack for using that term, but that's exactly what would happen if we instituted E-Verify for work and also rescinded some of those horrible decisions about illegals being eligible for welfare, schooling, government entitlement programs, etc., etc., etc. So that's why people like his immigration suggestions. Now, does the whole immigration process require an overhaul? Yes, it does, because on the one hand, they say there's fruit and vegetables rotting in the fields of California because they can't get Americans to work for the $17 an hour plus benefits. I'm not so sure about that. I think that's California. The entitlements are way too high. Nobody wants to work. That's something else. But Mark Levin mentioned something in his show this evening. And he was talking about the H-1B visa scam. Now, the H-1B visa was a visa that was introduced to allow skilled people to come and work in the US if there was a need for their skills and they were not available in America. I know all about the H-1B visa because it's one of the visas that I came to the US on. I've been here on an L1, I've been on an H-1B. For both of those, you actually had to show that you were not displacing an American from a job and that the wage you were being paid was the same, and in that respect not more, but especially not less. So I know, like I said, I know all about it. Mark Levin mentioned that nowadays 75% of college graduates who graduate with STEM, that's sort of science, technology, engineering, and I think mechanical degrees, they cannot get a job because of the H-1B visa holders. Immigrants who've been brought in from Asia, cheap labor that's been brought in from Asia. And business is screaming, "Oh, we need more visas, we need more visas." And yet these Americans cannot get jobs, folks. There's something wrong with that picture. Anyway, I'd like to say hi to the folks in the chat room. I see that Edward and Paul have arrived, my two regular listeners. So hi there, folks. Hope you're enjoying the show. That was the section on immigration, and I think let's go across to email, because I'd like to get through the email as quickly as possible, because we've got other topics as well. But before we do that, we have one other thing that we need to do, because I see it's that time of the show again, and the first part of the show is over. I will be back after these messages.
You can lose 10, 20, 30 pounds or more with Maximum Slim's first ever rapid weight loss guarantee. Today, you get Maximum Slim, an advanced fat and carb blocker, absolutely risk-free. The all-natural ingredients in Maximum Slim are a powerful weight loss combination. The Maximum Slim formula turns your body into a fat-burning furnace that supercharges your weight loss. Advanced fat and carb blocker stops the breakdown of sugar so your body doesn't store it as fat. Today, you'll get both of these products absolutely risk-free with no obligation. Only pay shipping. There are no expensive meal plans or exhausting DVDs. Just take Maximum Slim twice a day. It's fast, simple, and now it's guaranteed. Look, you can start losing weight today or not. Go back to your high school days and wear your favorite jeans again. Guaranteed. Call now and get both weight loss formulas free. Call 800-451-0228. 800-451-0228. That's 800-451-0228.
Doc, you gotta give it to me straight.
All right.
'Cause I'm dying here. I mean, take a look at this letter from the IRS.
Oh, my.
This is killing me, Doc. I tell you, it's killing me.
Cheer up, my friend.
Huh?
The tax doctor is here. My diagnosis tells me that you're going to be just fine.
Really?
The tax doctor will not rest until we find you the best possible tax settlement.
Really, Doc?
Guaranteed.
If the IRS claims you owe them $10,000 or more in business or personal back taxes, call a tax doctor right now. We could save you up to 75% if you qualify. Guaranteed or you pay nothing. Call right now for free details.
800-917-8546. 800-917-8546. 800-917-8546. That's 800-917-8546.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. And welcome back to the show. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, welcoming you back to episode 280. If this is your first time listening to the show, just like to say welcome. And just a reminder, whether you're a regular listener, whether you're an infrequent listener, or whether this is the first time, just remember, if you want to reach me, you can send me an email, stefan@patrickcomelately.us, or you can go to the website, www.patrickcomelately.us, go to the contact page, and send me a message that way. I love to hear your comments, your questions, and of course, I will try to answer your questions in a future show, but I also promise to get an email back to you. First part of the show, we were talking about Trump's immigration paper, not all the details, but a couple of topics out of there, and regular listeners will know immigration is always a hobby horse of mine because I am a legal immigrant, so it's important for me. But the other main topic for this evening was going to be emails, of course, and that is Hilliar's email servers, and she's just getting deeper and deeper into the quicksand here. So what came out today was the fact that she had lied yet again about what she was doing with her email server. So let's look at some of the things we were told. We were told, first of all, that her email server was safe. It was in her house in Chappaqua, and of course they have the Secret Service there, and therefore the server was well looked after. Then it turned out it wasn't actually in the house. It was in a shed or something like that in the backyard, but still on the terrain, so still with the Secret Service around. And then we found out that at some point it was actually moved to a hosting company, as we call it in the business, who ran the server for her. Well, today we found out that this was a company in Denver, Colorado. And not only that, it was basically a mom and pop operation, a very small operation. Well, why would you do that? There are so many big companies that provide hosting, that provide secure hosting, that wouldn't it make more sense to use one of them? But then again, those companies have good backup procedures. They are very secure, they're difficult to break into, but they also keep all of the information. Well, if you didn't really want that information to be known, to be subpoenable, maybe you might want to use a mom and pop operation. So if you do that, what kind of mom and pop operation would you choose? Well, maybe one who has someone who is a very big donor to the Democrat Party. And so today in the Daily Mail, isn't it funny how an English newspaper has to break this news and our own mainstream media doesn't do that? But anyway, so the Daily Mail, or actually the Daily Mail Online, tracked them down and found out that when she moved her server to this hosting company, it was run from a loft apartment, and the servers were actually housed in the bathroom closet. Well, that's very secure. And they tracked down some of the ex-employees who revealed that yes, the outfit had very strong links to the Democratic Party, but expressed shock that Hilliar had chosen that company for such a sensitive job. One of them said it was just that, a mom and pop shop, which was an excellent place to work, but hardly seemed a likely place to secure state secrets. In fact, they didn't even have a burglar alarm on that loft when it was up there. And Tom Welch, this is someone who helped found the company, one of the founders, actually confirmed the servers were indeed in a bathroom closet. So somehow, because this company is very involved with the governor of Colorado, probably running software for him, and he's tipped actually as one of Hillary's running mates. So probably through him they got in contact with that, and she put it out there. But why choose such a small one? It's so dangerous. Especially because she said, and this is Hilliar speaking again, remember, her lips were moving, but she did say, oh, well, the server was at my house and it was protected by the Secret Service. No, it wasn't. It was in this very unprotected area. And we don't know how good this company was at security. Probably not all that good, which means that all the information on the server has been hacked and sent on to Russia, China, or wherever. Now, if it's just Hillary's private emails, who cares? But more and more information is coming out that there are upward of 300 emails on the server that were classified in nature. And there's all these things about, well, they weren't flagged as classified, so Hillary couldn't know. What everybody forgets is that the law doesn't state that they have to be flagged as classified, and that whoever's working with them should know whether or not they are sensitive classified information, especially the ones that were TK, IS. These are special codes that indicated the highest of the highest classification available. Hilliar would have known that the information in those kinds of emails had that kind of classification. So again, it comes back to, why would she do it? Because she wanted to keep her emails secret and wanted to be able to wipe them out. So why, when a subpoena is issued and she then proceeds to wipe her server clean, why is she not in handcuffs? Because destroying evidence under subpoena. Anybody else do anything like that, they would have been slammed into jail immediately. But because it's Hilliar, she gets away with it. Or will she? The FBI is investigating. Will there be somebody with some cojones in the regime, in the administration, that will dare to indict her? Very interesting. But that whole mom and pop operation thing actually gets even worse, because the marketing VP at that company was actually sued for fraud after receiving proceeds from the $500 million Ponzi scheme that was run by Lou Pearlman. He was the impresario for the Backstreet Boys, you may remember, and I know it well because he was actually Orlando based. And he had this $500 million Ponzi scheme. He scammed hundreds of people out of huge amounts, and this marketing manager at the server place, the server company, had been paid $1.5 million as a director of a company for basically doing nothing. He was actually accused of 14 counts of fraud and 1 count of unjust enrichment, but he never went to jail. Well, Lou Pearlman did. And he then moved on from that and got a job at this server company. It was called Platte River Networks. He was their VP of sales and marketing. So why didn't he go to jail? Very interesting. Court documents show he was accused of fraud by a bankruptcy trustee after Lou Pearlman was jailed. So, twisted plots here, twisted plots. But why is that important? So, he was a bad guy, okay, fine. But the issue is, because he has such a colourful past, he would have never got through any kind of security clearance. And if that company, Platte River Networks, actually had physical control of the server, then the company and the employees there would have had to should have been vetted for security clearances. But that didn't happen. And not only did this gentleman commit fraud, and he was indicted for fraud, never went to jail, don't know why, but also in 2009, when Clinton came into office, he filed for bankruptcy with $24 million in debt. So he gets all this other money, but he's still in debt. Both of those things could have made him a target for blackmailers or criminals. So why could she get away with it? Well, she finally handed over her server to the FBI, and it was supposedly professionally wiped clean. But today, forensic technology can do a lot with these hard drives, so they may be able to retrieve some information. And the rumors are that the State Department in other locations has also found over 17,000 emails that would have come from her server. So now the chips are beginning to fall. Now, the State Department is saying we can only release these in groups because we have to vet all these emails before we release them for the FOIA request. Well, why would that be? Hilliar told us that there was absolutely nothing classified on her server. So if these are things that came from her server, they couldn't possibly be classified. So you should just be able to release them. But no, they have to go through them line by line by line, they say. Stonewalling. Or maybe somebody cleverly at State Department has found a way to drag this out so that it goes on and on and on into the primary season, so that Hilliar is reminded, and the voters, more importantly, the voters are reminded about her duplicity and untrustworthiness time and again, every 30 days, time and again and again and again. Maybe someone in the State Department is looking after we the people after all. Okay, folks, I see it's time for our next commercial break. So I will step aside for a moment and let you listen to these. Just a quick reminder for new listeners. If you have need of any of these services, please use the 800 numbers in the commercials, because that helps support this show. I'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Patriot come lately. British by birth. American by choice. Just like the Founding Fathers. The voice of the conservative resistance.
Every day, millions of Americans grow more concerned about the future of our great nation. The truth is, over the last century, a small but powerful collectivist movement known as progressivism has debased our politics, our culture, and our currency. We're just a small step from falling into 1,000 years of darkness, as Ronald Reagan warned. Friend, this is Pat Boone with an important free offer on a hot new book called The Great Withdrawal by Craig Smith and Lowell Ponte. This new book explains how we, the people, can end this fatal detour into big government and get back on the path of faith and freedom charted by our founders. Call now for a free copy of the hot new book called The Great Withdrawal.
Call now for your free copy. 800-978-3901. 800-978-3901. 800-978-3901. That's 800-978-3901.
Owe $10,000 or more to the IRS that you can't pay? Call now for immediate help. At the Tax Relief Line, we help people just like you. If you take on the IRS alone, you could be facing levies, liens, even wage garnishments, personal or business tax issues. If you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS, call now and see if you can pay less. They can freeze your bank accounts, even garnish your wages. Call the Tax Relief Line now for immediate help. Our expert team of tax professionals will negotiate your tax problem and deal with the IRS for you. If the IRS is threatening you with levies, wage garnishments, or seizing your assets, call now and see if you can pay the IRS less.
888-789-5043. 888-789-5043. 888-789-5043. 888-789-5043.
This is Patriot Come Lately Talk Radio, keeping the spirit of America alive, a proud member of the Red State Talk Radio Network. And thank you for sticking with me there. This is Stefan, your Patriot Come Lately. We're into the second half of the show. Before we start the second half, there is just one quick clip that I would like to run for you, which comes from Red State Talk Radio. Red State Talk Radio, of course, the premier network on the internet for conservative talk show hosts, and proud to say that they rebroadcast my show 4 times a week. For the schedule, just go to redstatetalkradio.com and check there. They actually have 2 channels now. They've expanded, Studio A and Studio B, and I have 2 rebroadcasts on one channel and 2 on the other. And also found out that Primo Mondoni, the owner of Red State Talk Radio, has been very successful, and this month we are breaking all records in terms of listeners, becoming a real force on the internet. The other channel that also rebroadcasts my show out on the left coast there, the 405 Radio, or the 405 Media as well, both names are used. If you look that up, they also rebroadcast my show, I believe, on a daily basis even. I think it's 11 Pacific time. So, of course, it's going out over the internet. So the fact that they are in the land of fruits and nuts doesn't matter. You can still listen to the show there. And of course, if you're listening to the show live, you don't need to hear it again, but you can if you want to through those channels. But do tell your friends about the show. Okay, before we go any further, I do want to play this clip, which comes from Red State Talk Radio, and I think it's an important one with everything going on in the world, and then we're going to go and talk about some other topics.
This is Jeff Carlisi from the Band 38 Special. Let us never forget that police lives matter.
So there we are, folks. A famous group, and reminding us that, yes, police lives matter. And I agree with Martin O'Malley. I'm going to agree with the Democrat. Oh, that's bad. But all lives matter. Of course, he rescinded it. And I think it's very weak of him. But all lives matter. And talking about agreeing with Democrats, I'm going to shock you again. There's another one. In actual fact, he's not even just a Democrat. He's a socialist Democrat that I agree with. I think it's a good idea that he's had. Yes, of course, I'm talking about the person that's challenging Hilliar. That's Bernie Sanders. And while he's still double digits and sometimes more than that behind Hilliar, he is catching up slowly but surely, and couldn't really imagine agreeing with him, and I think a number of conservatives might not agree with him, but many on the right have been calling for a reduction in or an abolition of early voting, and Bernie Sanders, I think, agrees with them, because what he has submitted a bill in the Senate that would make Election Day a national holiday. So that means that the Tuesday after the first Monday in November, on even-numbered years, would be a public holiday called Democracy Day. Sanders feels that it would make it easier for Americans to vote. I agree with him 100%, because if we do that, then we have no need for the early voting. Why is getting rid of early voting important? Because early voting is one of the major ways that the Democrats are able to carry out their nefarious voter fraud. Now, of course, they say all the time there is no such thing as voter fraud, and yet we have time after time. In the past show, I did that, examples of where voter fraud was occurring, and that's just the tip of the iceberg, because those are the ones that we actually find out about. How much goes on that we don't find out about? Anyway, so Sanders said in a statement, in America we should be celebrating our democracy and doing everything possible to make it easier for people to participate in the political process. Election Day should be a national holiday so that everyone has time and opportunity to vote. While this would not be a cure-all, it would indicate a national commitment to create a more vibrant democracy. The only thing is, Mr. Sanders, we are not a democracy. We're a constitutional republic. Very different. But anyway, who knows? Okay, and just having a quick look here. Why is it all the Democrat front runners ugly as old and old as hell? The answer is Obama to be drafted. Yes, but not Barack Obama. I'm going to come back to that. In actual fact, why don't I handle that first of all? So this isn't. Yes, we have time for this. This was an opinion written by Wayne Allen Root, who's a libertarian. He's written a number of articles. He's very well published. And he said, it's all over for Hillary Clinton. It's done, finished, finito. He says they are drawing chalk marks on the outline of her political career. Well, why would that be? How bad is it? Hillary is now more likely to end up in the big house than the White House. I agree. Great slogan. Hilliar for the big house. How bad is it? Well, it's so bad that the cover-up and conspiracy in Benghazi is the least of her worries. Is it really that bad? Yeah. No one's even mentioning the Clinton Foundation, where she accepted $2 billion in donations, while she was Secretary of State. Much of it from foreign governments, while quickly awarding contracts to those same countries and companies. Isn't that treason? Or at the very least corruption? And that's not even on the radar screen. Just wait till Trump rips into her in the debates if he makes it to the nomination. How bad is it? The current scandal doesn't even involve the fact that she erased 32,000 emails that she chose, and the server she purposely destroyed. Well, that one's coming back to bite her slowly but surely. But he says the most important part is the criminal investigation that involves the top secret classified documents sent to her and shared with her staff on her personal email server, a place where any Chinese or Russian hacker could read the most sensitive US government secrets. So now she's a presidential candidate under criminal investigation by the FBI and Department of Justice, and they could go on investigating her, and let's just suppose she wins the nomination. I don't think she will, but let's suppose she does. And then got elected, and then immediately afterwards she would have to be impeached. Yep. So key aides of hers are going to be under investigation. People around her are going to go to jail. And how many of them will do that? There's going to be at least one who, in order to avoid prison, are going to be pointing fingers at her. How bad is it really? Her only real competition is an old hippie who brags he's a socialist, and anybody else is just left in the dust. Now, in New Hampshire, but of course Bernie Sanders comes from nearby Vermont, he's even leading. That may be an aberration, but even so, he shouldn't even be anywhere near there. And compared to Bernie, Donald Trump looks like an establishment candidate. So Wayne Allen Root says the writing is on the wall. It's all over, but the actual speech announcing Hillary's withdrawal from the race. That's just a formality at this point. Think of all the disappointed foreign countries certain they'd bought the next president. This would be devastating to the leaders of those countries and the corrupt CEOs of multinational corporations. So he's predicting she's done. Stick a fork in her. Now, if she does step aside, Wayne Allen says, who would step in? A commie, Bernie Sanders, a crazy man, Joe Biden, and a white woman who faked she was an Indian to get a job at Harvard, Elizabeth Warren. And maybe Al Gore, or maybe not. Wayne Allen bets on Elizabeth Warren. He says it can't be Bernie Sanders. He's an outright socialist, almost communist. America only elects socialists who pretend to be moderates. See Barack Obama. That leaves Joe Biden, crazy Uncle Joe, as he calls him. But can he win? The Democrat Party is a party of angry, mentally wounded, politically correct special interest groups, united by an agenda that attacks, denigrates, and punishes straight white men. Straight white man. That sounds like Joe Biden. So that would kill the narrative of the war against women. But there is a woman out there, and that's Elizabeth Warren. She bowed out of the race months ago in deference to Hillary, But now that Hillary's having such a bad time, Wayne Allen predicts a heroic press conference, and he says, I could write the script. She'll step up to the podium and say, I've been a fighter for underdogs my entire life. I've fought for women, African Americans, Hispanic, gays, unions, the poor, the working class, mothers on welfare, children without enough food to eat. In light of Hillary Clinton's distractions, I've decided for the good of the country and my party to rethink my decision. Yada, 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 yada. And Hillary rides off into the sunset. Well, I don't completely agree with Wayne Allen, and let me tell you why. Because I heard someone suggest something else, and I think that's a little more likely. But before we do that, I'm going to take a quick break, and I will be back after these messages. And the messages will be coming right now.
If you're diabetic, this message could change your life. Is your blood sugar out of control even when you do all the right stuff? Are you afraid of diabetic blindness and the risk of amputation, as well as all those other side effects? Well, you should be. Is there anything that could help manage your blood sugar? Nobetes is a natural supplement that may quickly and dramatically lower your blood sugar.
My name is Bob Corder. I've been using Nobetes for about 3.5 to 4 months now, and in the first 3 months, I've actually lowered my blood sugars from 500s down to 139, and then it dropped to 88 to 93.
My name is Kirsten. I'm a type 1 diabetic, and while taking Nobetes, my blood sugar levels dropped from 295 to 115 in just 1 day.
The FDA hasn't evaluated these statements, and Nobetes isn't intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. But for many, it's helped drop their blood sugar. So if you've been evaluated with high blood sugar, don't delay. Evaluate Nobetes now. Call 800-424-3790 and get 2 bottles free. Just cover shipping and handling. Call 800-424-3790. That's 800-424-3790.
The offer of a franchise can only be made through delivery of a franchise disclosure document. Imagine yourself being a leader in America's fastest growing demographic category. More than 10,000 people a day turn 65, and a large percentage are going to need a helping hand at home or in choosing the right assisted living community. Always Best Care is looking for people who've excelled at everything they've done, but they're seeking a new challenge. Always Best Care is one of the fastest growing companies in this explosive field. We're looking for 25 new franchisees to keep our booming business growing. We'll back you up with the strongest award-winning marketing program in the industry, and we'll provide the special training and support that's fueled our growth to prepare you for this great opportunity. All that's missing is you. Call Always Best Care toll-free at 1-800-643-7508. That's 1-800-643-7508. For Always Best Care, 1-800-643-7508. Call today.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. Hi, welcome back, folks. We're into the final segment of the show. My, time flies when you're having fun. I know I say that almost every show when we get towards the end. We were talking about the Wayne Allen Root commentary and saying that he thought it would be Elizabeth Warren that would end up replacing Hillary when she drops out. I heard someone suggesting that it was going to be Joe Biden. And, well, guess where King Barry was this week? Of course, he's on vacation again. They're in, they're up in New England there at some luxury house, spending our hard-earned taxpayer dollars. And what was he doing? Yes, he was playing golf. But guess who he was playing golf with this week? He was playing golf with Bill Clinton. Were they hatching a plan together? Now, Paul said that there's pictures of them having a fairly hefty discussion while out on the golf course, and Bill was sort of kept away from Obama by the other two in the foursome that were a couple of probably football players or something like that, but a couple of African Americans of large size. But I wonder, what plan were they hatching? And the suggestion that someone had was that Hillary is going to be persuaded to step aside in return for a presidential pardon. But then who steps into the gap? Wayne Allen said Elizabeth Warren. It couldn't be Joe Biden. Well, couldn't it? Why not? It could be Joe Biden. But if it was Joe Biden, who would he take as his running mate? To offset that war on women issue that Wayne Allen mentions, he'd almost have to take a woman. And the suggestion was that he would take Muchel. Yes, that's right. Muchel. But if he did that, then perhaps he might be persuaded after a year, for health reasons, to step down. And then guess what? We have Obama's third term. And I thought, when I heard that, it was somebody on the radio, I think, that actually makes a lot of sense. That's the sort of machinations that they would be doing. So, let's see. Anyway, before the end of the show, just a little bit more Muslim leanings from the little mosque on the Potomac. Yes, that's that white building, at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, because the regime has intervened in a lawsuit over Palestinian terror attacks that have killed Americans. A judge had required a hefty bond payment because in a case in New York City where a jury awarded $218.5 million to Americans affected by terrorist attacks, Palestinian terror attacks, and it was a lawsuit brought against the PLO and the Palestinian Authority. That amount is automatically tripled under the Anti-Terrorism Act. That's $600 and whatever million dollars. And the regime says, well, that would unbalance the Palestinian Authority, that would destroy their finances, and so they overruled that verdict because, first of all, it would weaken the legitimacy of the Palestinian Authority and undermine several decades of U.S. foreign policy. Yes, anything to placate his Muslim friends. I'm sorry, folks. Every time this happens, it really looks as if he is Muslim, because everything is supporting Muslims. All the Muslims in the regime, that's all we can say. So the little mosque on the Potomac, folks, new name for the People's House. Okay, folks, it looks as if we're slowly getting to the end of the show. I want to thank you for coming this week, whether you come to the live show, and especially Paul and Rex or Edward. Thank you for coming. And for those of you that are listening via the other channels, thank you for listening. Do contact me, as I mentioned earlier in the show. Send me your feedback, send me your comments, send me your questions. Love to hear from my listeners. And next week, looking for more interesting topics. I'm sure plenty of things will be happening, and our dear friend Donald is sure to provide us more interesting stuff to do. Okay, folks, let's see. I think the music is about to start, and of course, when the music starts, it's time for me to say TTFN, ta-ta for now. Come back next week. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the show. I hope that you enjoyed tonight's topics. Whether you listened live, to a recording, or to a rebroadcast, I appreciate the time you share with me. We need to spread the message of liberty far and wide. So please tell your friends and family about the show. Thank you for helping to keep the beacon of hope burning. This is Stephen, your Patrick Come Lately, signing off. God bless America, and remember, L3, long live liberty.